Josh, we don't realize how deep this delusion or illusion of this individual separate self is. We just don't know. We can ask, because we ask questions like, how do we do this? How do we do that? Oh, I realize now this. I realize that now. That's still the individual illusory self talking. That's how deep this is. Now, I'm not knocking that at all. Like, that's this illusory self also is very, very real. The only difference between that and the consciousness, you can say, is this illusory human self isn't permanent. Consciousness is permanent. The illusory self is consciousness. So how are you going to say it's not real? Anybody say it's not real? Okay. It's real. Remember the spiritual technique? Hit yourself with the hammer, and then you'll see. You'll see if there's... Then they'll say, oh, well, that's just a sense of realness. Okay, well, feels pretty real, don't it? It's like, how do you realize... There's no way around it, actually. So I'm going to apply that to myself. I'm speaking right now. I'm engaged. Making a video. Do I know that this human self that's making this video, do I think that that's not real? It's a reality that's happening inside a more deeper reality. I can say that. The human self is a self that's taking place in my universal self. The form self, the human form self is happening in my formless self. See, if you don't acknowledge both, you're not like realizing anything. It's the mind that's hijacked the consciousness, speaking in playing the role of a non-duality person. We've got to do that for a while, though, obviously. So these belief systems we have, this deep identity with being this individual human construct, this is what keeps us asleep. What do you mean, though? What does it mean keeps us asleep? Remember I said there's the pure consciousness. We can say this in so many ways. Don't get caught up on the words. You say it in your own way. There's the pure consciousness that doesn't have a form, and that lives forever. How can it die? It doesn't have a form. And then it separated itself into a localized individual construct of consciousness so that it can taste differentiation, something like that. You know what I'm saying? It creates, some people, does that, okay, which thought do I want to finish first? Okay, let me come back to that. So it creates this sense of separation, these individual selves, so that we can relate to it. Isn't that good? Like, do we see the benefit in that? Some people say, well, what's the purpose for coming to the planet? That's the purpose. So consciousness can, like, engage and experience itself. If there's just consciousness, there's just, there's just white, everything's white. How's the white going to, like, taste white? It needs different colors and varieties and everything. Then it can say, oh, wow, yeah, you're blue. Cool. I'm white. I'm better. Whatever. So, what was I going to say, though? You see, when I make, I like making fun because it makes it fun for me to make videos. I enjoy. But I noticed in the past, some people, what did this one guy said? He's like, when I first saw your video, I was like, WTF, And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, I want to know. Like, I think that's cool. That's funny. Oh, because after that, he said, but then I watched a few and now he's fully on board. But, like, why? Because, see, I don't see myself the way you see me. So it's fun. I don't take it personal. It's just fun. It's like, what does your mind tell you about me? What does it tell you about me when you said first, WTF? And then what did it tell you after where you're like, oh, yeah, right on? Like, what happened? What made your mind change? And for the most part, they say, like, I don't know, I'm a little overly casual and a little, whatever. And so the mind's like, how can he really know what he's talking about? Like, come on. I think that's what's going on. Whereas, like, TED Talk, for example, You're all postured up. You know how to move your hand when you say something. So see, that appeals to the collective level of consciousness more, and that's just the way the game's set up. But those that can read vibration, that supersedes everything. I remember I was watching Mooji's old videos like years ago when he was starting in like an apartment. Couldn't even hear it, like the sound. You couldn't. I had, and you could hardly see him. I mean, it was super bad quality. Man, I had my ear like up, like laying on the computer, trying to hear this, because he had something. Why I care? Like like who cares? Video quality, the volume. I mean, yeah. Like obviously that's good if we have it, but this was like in 2000 or something. Like that's all he had. And so, but I never even crossed my mind, like the quality or just all the nonsense the mind can say. Oh, he's long dreads, Jamaican, probably smokes weed. Just all this stuff the mind can come up with to throw us off our path, So anyway, I don't know, felt to say that. So the belief system, how do you overcome this deep-rooted beliefs? First, you got to see it. Just notice yourself. Notice how the beliefs are so strong when it comes, either one, negative or positive. Like, oh man, how do I do, like I'm struggling, like I'm in a challenge, these feelings are so heavy, the emotion, how do I get rid of them? Man, I can't, I feel so weak, or I feel so tired, or I'm never going to wake up, all that. You see how strong this virtual reality game is? Because when it's easy, if that's the human experience, to really identify with that. So catch yourself when you're doing it. Don't be like, okay, I'm not going to identify with this. Forget about all that. Just be aware of how real this game is. And in that moment, there's a belief that that's what you are. Don't try to get rid of the belief. You see, you're going back deeper into Maya then. No, something recognizes. It's your higher self that doesn't have a form. It recognizes this. That's it. That's good. That's your sadhana. You just recognize it. Let it play out. Doesn't matter if it after you recognize that, if it changes or not. No, it's like this human world has its own laws. It has to go through its process, and you process it. You get into a depression or something, or you get the cold or flu, it has a certain amount of time it lasts. Like, let it play out. But just be aware of how deep the belief is. When you start being aware of that, there becomes more space. And then that also has its own progression in laws and process. You don't like you. It's set up to where the consciousness knows this more. What does that mean, knows it more? Basically, I'm saying the localized consciousness gets more and more absorbed into this higher, pure state of consciousness. More and more and more. It's not a one and you're done type thing. Now, there's exceptions. Ramana Maharshi, Eckhart Tolle, but they've done all this before in previous lives. They can't remember. So there's always a mathematical explanation for anything that happens. We can't see it. If we could see like the string of lives, we'd say, oh yeah, that makes sense. But we can't see it. It'd mess the game up. So don't worry about that. Don't compare yourself to other people. And we don't really know what's going on with anybody anyway. We just read stuff, and then our mind interprets it, and imagination says, wow, sudden enlightenment. We don't know how sudden anything is. Don't worry about it. You stay focused on yourself. And recognize how deep this belief is. So I gave an example about how the consciousness incarnates into these negative beliefs and thoughts. Okay, now let's do the positive. See, can I say it's more important? It just feels more important because nobody talks about it. So an example of how this works in a positive, or how the the belief systems, even if they're positive, how that still keeps us asleep. It's like this. I'm awake. I'm going to make my awakening story now. I got it. That's identity. How's the formless consciousness awake? It doesn't know about being awake. It doesn't need to be awake. It's beyond sleeping and awake. The whole sleeping and awake belongs to the 3D game that we're playing for the localized consciousness. So when you start to feel yourself becoming more awake, because you will, on this level, the human localized consciousness self will start to feel it's more awake because of law of evolution and karma and everything else. So that's part of the game too. It's part of the game to feel asleep. It's part of the game to feel you're awake. Don't identify with either one. Catch it. Catch it when you start feeling like, yeah, man, I'm getting it now. Damn. All these people out here, they need to come to me so I can help. This self-talk. I'm exaggerating a little. It's for illustrative purposes. It is much more subtle, and you got to catch the subtle things. Just the subtle feeling like I'm awake, or man, I'm like super conscious right now. They're like abstract thoughts even. They don't even come with with actual pictures. It's just kind of this subtle feeling like, man, I'm really good. Catch that. Am I saying not to enjoy the feeling really good? No. Catch the commentary around it. That's your sadhana. That's how you continue this dissolution process of identity. Because the identity, that never ends. How's it going to end? That's part of the game. Like, as long as we have a form, even if we're on the highest causal level with the most thinnest causal body, there's still going to be some play of identity. There has to be, otherwise we wouldn't exist. So accept that. There's a constant, continuous fusion of the individual self with the source self that never ends. So enjoy the process, but don't identify with it. Yeah, this is the highest sadhana for this is what I feel. All right, let me know. Did this go in somewhere? All right, see you.